So there is another 40k video to come later on today or tomorrow, but right now we are moving on from the gritty, relentless, grim, dark, knightly theme of the Dark Angels to the much more bright, colourful, just, and chivalrous knights of Bretonnia, and of course the heroic courts are back with a vengeance, with an all brand new, stunning range refresh showing off just how noble and brave and just they are, and looking utterly gorgeous while they're doing it. Now, all joking aside, it's not Bretonnia, it is of course the Flesh Eater Courts. These guys have had what is quite possibly the oldest book in AOS for quite some time. I'm not entirely sure, but I think theirs is still one of the earlier 2nd edition books, and we are now getting near to the end of 3rd edition, so they have been waiting quite a long time for a new book. But to reward their patience, GW have decided to give them an absolutely massive revamp with a load of new kits and units, and a character who's been around in the lore for decades, going back to Warhammer Fantasy, but has never actually been seen before in model form, and that is of course Ushoran, the Summer King. Now, we've already seen a few of the new kits coming. They've been shown off over the past few weeks and months. We saw the Gore Warden and also Grand Justice Goremain, to name a few, as well as a few leaks that have happened over the past few months. But there is a lot more coming, it seems. And starting things off, we have their new infantry forces in the form of the Crypt Guard. Now, these guys look like your regular ghouls, but they actually have weaponry rather than using their claws and teeth. They can either take swords or halberds, and their basic lore is that they are there to act as a bit of an elite unit. They're there to protect their lords and heroes and slay the enemies that may come across them or threaten their land. I'm imagining them as some kind of Graveguard-esque hammer unit, so they may be quite fragile and easy to kill, but hopefully we'll be able to put out a good chunk of damage as and when they do get into melee. And I mean, they do look suitably brutal. Personally, I prefer the halberds, but even the swords look pretty cool. They are a really stunning looking unit. I imagine that they are going to be really quite popular because at the moment, especially on the infantry side, Crypt Ghouls are very much a quantity of attacks rather than quality in terms of their damage output. So having a unit that may be slightly better in terms of the attack quality but have slightly less attacks or be slightly more expensive, I think is a good mix and will allow you to do that sort of anchor unit and hammer unit with these guys coming in from the side and just smashing your enemy to pieces with maybe some good wounding or higher damage weaponry compared to things that like your basic Crypt Ghouls. We also finally got some actual mounted units announced. I know Flayers and Horrors think of themselves as mounted knights and heroes, but these guys, the Morrgheist Knights, they actually are mounted on some, let's be honest, incredibly cool looking bat/beast-ish style monsters. They really, really do look gorgeous and fun, and I absolutely love the detailing on them. I love that flayed skin banner that you can see. The arm literally just dangling out of the mouth of one of the bats, I think is brilliant. They just look like they're going to be this incredibly cool, incredibly fun, fast-moving shock cavalry unit that can just swoop in and hopefully unleash a terrifying amount of damage into the enemy whilst the rest of your army moves up and into position. It's again, I know Flayers are nice and fast, but having this mounted cavalry unit that is hopefully a bit more durable and tanky as well is something the Flesh Eater Courts really have needed for a while, and something that I think a lot of players have really wanted to see. So they're going to be really, really grateful to finally have access to it, and I think they look brilliant. I just absolutely love the mounts. I think they look fantastic. I love all the design on them. I love the ghouls on top of them, and I really cannot wait to see just what they can do on the battlefield. Accompanying the fast-moving, hopefully Morrgheist Knights, we also got a redesign of a really, really old classic kit, which is the Vargulf. The current model for that is, I mean, in my opinion, it's not aged that well, to be honest. But the new Vargulf courtier is a really, really stunning update. It does look very, very different. It's very much more Golem-esque, whereas the old one, the current one, for me, that's sort of, it's got a bit of a werewolf vibe. It's got this kind of werewolf/bat style vibe. And I get that some people may really, really like that, so they may be put off by this one being so sort of Golem-ish. But I think he looks really good, and I think he looks more in fitting with the Flesh Eater Court aesthetic that we've seen from all the other units. You know, he is long and sinewy and gaunt, and he just looks ghoulish, which I really love. And Vargulf courtiers, they're like this fast-moving hammer unit, so he can just ride up alongside your Morrgheist knights, slam into an enemy flank, and just utterly tear an enemy to shreds. But they also act as leaders, so he can sort of heal people and bring people back, and hopefully he'll have some other rules to kind of help him buff your forces. Not in the most overt way, because he is not kind of this great military leader in terms of anything, but he is kind of going to make the rest of your army hopefully perform a little bit better or be a little bit more durable over the course of the battle. 2 additional new hero units also got shown off in the reveal. The utterly brilliant and delusional court is still making its presence known, with an abhorrent cardinal giving us a look at the more spiritual, religious side of the Flesh Eater Court, spreading the good word of the Summer King as he goes around. I imagine that this will be more of a buffing unit. He will almost certainly be a priest, so he will be able to chant some prayers to help boost and improve your army further, whilst the Royal Decapitator will definitely be much more of an out-and-out melee beat stick. His axe does look suitably horrific and gory, and he will likely have a solid damage profile, maybe getting some kind of buff against an enemy hero or an enemy unit that you choose at the start of the game that's been found guilty and deemed deserving of execution. That kind of rule I can imagine him having. I think they both look really, really cool, and to be honest, all of the kits shown off in this reveal as well as previously, I think just look amazing. They are all so thematic and fun, and for me anyway, they really do hit all of those key points of AOS being just a little bit sillier and allowing the designers to be a bit more daring and imaginative and create units that are just a bit more interesting to look at. Like, all of these are a huge win in my book, purely because, rules aside, like, I don't even really care about that. They just look fun to kind of have on the board and to look at and paint and move around and play. Like, they just look like they're going to be so much fun to build an army around and have this idea of a delusional court with, you know, the executor and the priest and the judge, everything just coming together to show this kind of deluded, crazy army. And that is something that AOS does so well, in allowing armies to kind of be designed and built with this really strong thematic core around them. But then to round it all off, there were actually a few more things added to really up the ante on this release. First up is a brand new army box coming for them. This will let you get your hands on the Gore Warden that we saw for a few weeks ago, I think, the Vargulf Courtier, 3 Morrgheist Knights, and 20 Crypt Guard alongside the upcoming Battle Tome. So this is, in my opinion, a really brilliant set. I imagine it's going to sell out in seconds, so try and get it if you can when this goes up, because this is definitely going to be a FOMO set, which is annoying because, again, I think 100% this is a set that a lot of people will want to get if you are, you know, wanting to add new units to your Flesh Eater Courts or just get started on them, because it's one of the best army sets we've seen in a very long time. But then on top of that, we also got the big man himself, the noble king of the Flesh Eater Courts, Ushoran, the Summer King, the first exemplar, the Lord of Masks, the Mortarch of Delusion. And he is just mind-blowingly stunning. He is utterly gorgeous. I adore his model so much. I know I say this a lot, but his model is genuinely one of my favorite that I've ever seen in AOS or 40k. I love everything about it. For me, he is just perfect at representing what he is. He is the king of this completely deluded, fanatical, mindless force of crazed lunatics. And I mean, when you look at him, he's got this regal robe, he's got a crown, he's got the mace that he's holding like a scepter. It's like a mace of office. He's not holding it like a weapon. He's holding it like he would be sitting in court, kind of listening to his subjects. He's even got that bloody goblet by his side for his banquet feasts. He is just, in any other kind of design, they would put this all on this really noble, regal lord. But Ushoran, he's also got like dozens of skulls in his cloak. It is just utterly mad and wacky and wild. and I love everything about it. He looks absolutely terrifying as well, and he is genuinely, just on like terms of his size, one of the most imposing, impressive centerpiece kits I think we've seen in AOS. He looks to be really, really big. You can see how big he is in this image here. That is, I think, clearly a 100mm base-ish, but he totally dominates the forces around him, and I just think he's going to be so much fun to build and paint and play, you know, surrounded by his court and his followers as they all charge into battle. He comes alongside Book 4 of the Dawnbringer campaign, which is the AOS series of campaigns that's running at the moment. This is titled The Mad King Rises, and it not only contains all the new lore for Ushoran and his forces, but also rules for the Flesh Eater courts and all of the other death factions. So if you are, like me, a player of Flesh Eater courts and Soulblight and Nighthaunt and the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, this book is going to be a huge, huge winner for you and should give us loads and loads to play around with and get excited for and get hyped for. I'll be honest, despite being a Dark Angel player for nigh on 25 years, this release, the Flesh Eater Courts reveal, is really tempting me as to what was the most exciting thing that got shown off this weekend. Don't get me wrong, I love Asmodai and I love the Knights, but this just whole revamp speaks to me so much. I love every single kit, I love every single model, the look, the aesthetic, the lore, just the idea of the Flesh Eater Courts in AOS is, in my opinion, just pure imaginative brilliance, and they've embraced the story of that in these models so well. So whoever designed them, or whatever team designed them, like 10 out of 10, you have done a perfect job here. If you've never played AOS and you want this army that is just fun, zany, crazy, enjoyable to look at and paint and play, then honestly, I think this looks to be a very good place to consider getting started, especially if you can get that army box. If you can get your hands on that, that looks to be a really good way to get your court started up and get some games into AOS. But that is it for the Flesh Eater Courts. They're getting a new battle tome, a new army box, a load of new kits and models, and a bucket load of new lore in this upcoming Dawnbringer book. It is a good time, never thought I would say this, but it is a good time to be a cannibal. But as always, I'd really love to know your thoughts on this. What do you make of all these new Flesh Eater Court kits? Which do you like the most? What do you think of Ushoran? And will you be picking him up? Let me know all your thoughts and theories and ideas down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.